Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cory Weissman. I'm the Director of Athletic Communications here at Gettysburg College, and it is Division III week, and we're kicking things off with a look at the academic success of our student athletes at Gettysburg College. And I have a great panel joining me today. We have Professor Bill Bowman from the History Department, Ann Lane from Academic Advising, and Colin Devlin from the wrestling team. Guys, thanks a lot for joining me today. I'm sure our fans at home are interested to hear what everybody has to say. Before we get into the specific questions I had everybody, we just want everybody to take a quick minute and introduce yourselves, how long you've been at Gettysburg, and any fun facts about yourself. Bill, we'll start with you.
Okay, I'm Bill Bowman from the History Department here at Gettysburg College. I've actually been here since 1994. I teach sports history in addition to teaching modern European history and world history at the college. I am what I think would be called a sports head, in that I follow lots of different sports, but I'm also a sports fan, and I found a real home here at Gettysburg, not only intellectually and academically, but also through the sports program. So in the fall, for example, I was teaching a sports history seminar, and in my classes this spring, I have different chapters in my classes on sporting events, say in European history. So I'm originally from the West Coast, but I've been living here on the East Coast for almost 3 decades now. So.
Thank you, Bill. Ann, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So interestingly enough, I came back home and I live right outside of town, and I've been at the college since 1981. I started as a part-time person, an adjunct in the English department, teaching English composition, and then later the first year seminar, which was called Freshman Colloquy at the time. And then in 1990, I moved into academic advising, and I've been there 30 years ever since. And I guess that's a testimony to how much I love the college and my work in academic advising, because they can't get rid of me.
And of course, for our fans at home, and we've been having a little trouble with the video, so we're going to soldier on through the technology and hopefully see what we get out of it too. So if Ann has to leave us, we're going to ad-lib and maybe tell jokes or something until she gets back on with us. And then finally, last but not least, Colin, say a little bit about yourself.
I'm Colin Devlin. I'm a senior economics major with a business minor. Capped off the season, wrestling, 2-time captain, and I am from Dresser, Pennsylvania, so go Cardinals as well. And I'm here because I'm the first 4-time academic All-American from Gettysburg Wrestling.
And you may or may not have won over 100 matches in your career and placed at regionals and at conferences a few times too.
Well, you got to do both. That's the beauty of the academic All-American. That
is very true. Colin, thank you for joining us. Bill, we are going to turn things to you first as our resident professor. Talking about academics and athletics at the Division III level, there's just such a unique relationship between student athletes, coaches, faculty members here. Talk a little bit about that relationship as it pertains to Gettysburg College.
Well, I have certain ways of thinking about these things for myself that, I represent as students, and I guess they're kind of slogans, but behind the slogans are really important aspects of how one approaches a Division III school like Gettysburg. First of all, is I believe in the idea of pursuing excellence in all things. I don't think there's ever a dichotomy between being a truly great student and being a truly great athlete. I thought that's been one of my mottos for my own children as well, is to pursue excellence in all things. So Gettysburg College student athletes have the opportunity to be not only top academic performers, but do very, very well in their sports of choice. And what I found at Gettysburg is that many of the athletes are also incredibly active in other types of pursuits, which is truly remarkable given the amount of time commitment that it takes. That's true of a lot of our students. I think that's one of the great things about a liberal arts college, is that you have the opportunity to be involved in so many different types of activities and so many different levels, and our students take advantage of that. student athletes are a prime example of that. And I think Colin can probably confirm this, but with the students I've worked with over many, many years, it's the discipline they bring to the playing fields or the courts or the wrestling mat or whatever it is that also translates over into the classroom so nicely. It just takes that kind of application on a daily basis to be good at what you do, whether it's wrestling or cross country or football or lacrosse or any of the number of other sports that people pursue here. And our students, especially when they're in season, they find that they are very, very disciplined about how they pursue their academics and their athletics. And I find that idea that you can and should pursue excellence in all things you do to being kind of a hallmark of what we try to strive for at Gettysburg College. And I've seen that in many, many different places with a lot of our athletes over a long period of time. And in fact, this January, I was fortunate enough to be one of the faculty members that was part of the panels that talked with candidates for our coaching position in football. And that's one of the things that came up in every single conversation is how the academic side of things can support the athletic program and how the athletic program in turn can support the academic program, and seeing no division between pursuing excellence in all things at the college. So that's kind of one of my basic mantras for how I work with students and how I pursue it. My other one's even more basic, and Colin will confirm this one. I say this to my students all the time, which is, if you're going to compete, you might as well win, right? So if we're going to compete, we're going to put in this effort athletically, we're going to put it into the classroom, you might as well win. You might as well end up, more often than not, at the top, on the top end of the standings, or maybe even further than that. So I say that to my students all the time.
That's great, Bill. Of course, I don't want to just gloss over the fact you used to play noon hoops with all the coaches and staff members like myself too, and that's come down to your son now playing with us.
Yeah, I was a noon baller for a long time, but at this point, I'm old enough that if I didn't play all the time, I'd probably get hurt. If you go out once a week, you're going to get hurt. If I could go out 3 or 4 times a week, I might be able to be one of the, guarding some other slow old guys as well. But at this point, I get in the gym, stay at, on the stationary bikes and things that are quite safe. But yeah, back in the day, way back in the day, I was a classic American athlete, football, basketball, baseball, that kind of thing. So, and I bring that to my classes too, by telling the students that if they want, we don't do this because we have to get in the analytical side of the history of sports, etc. But I can do ESPN with them all day long. In fact, I can blitz them in most sports trivia. They just don't know it. So that's the fan part of me coming through.
I can totally relate to that, Bill. You kind of talked about the key traits of the student athletes. I don't know if you had any more to build on there, but you can add that in. But the last question I had for you was some advice for student athletes. You mentioned, they're spread out pretty thin, or students in general can be spread out pretty thin between organizations, academics, and athletics too. So talk about, if there's any more key traits of student athletes you've seen, and then also some advice you have for student athletes as they try to balance that heavy workload.
Right. Well, I would say 2 things that I think, apply to all of our students here, but maybe particularly the student athletes. And first is communication. Communication in the sense of making sure that you're constantly in contact, both with your faculty and individual classes, your advisors, the coaches. I mean, there's lots of good conversations that can happen, mostly around success, right? Just supporting what's going on. But if there's any types of wrinkles in the story, or places when people need to have even more communication, more conversation, I think that's key. Get in with faculty occasionally around here, and probably around most schools like us. The student has to miss a given class because of an athletic obligation, but we can always work around that. So I think communication between students, advisors, students, and faculty is really key, and it's built into the way we do things here at Gettysburg. And also communication with the coaching staff and the athletic department. I mean, I think, Cory, you can confirm this. I'm pretty sure I know just about every coach on campus at this point, one way or the other, and count many of them as my friends. Second thing I would mention is planning. I think, you know, I say this to students all the time, but I think to be very specific about their academic and athletic plan is really key. And to say things like, I'm not going to dedicate 3 hours this week towards reading for that class. I'm going to dedicate these 3 hours. In the same way, I need to know that I'm going to be at a practice from 4 to 6. I'm going to be in a mandatory meeting from X number of hours a week. I need to know specifically in the course of my week where those hours are to dedicate for my academics. And actually, you know, in this stage, have it on a computer screen, have it written out by hand, but to be very specific about your plan. Just as an athlete has to know, I'm going to get in X number of days to lift weights, X number of days for running, X number of days for whatever it is, being in the pool. You need to be that specific with your academic plan. And if you do, you are not guaranteeing success, but you're going a long ways towards making it possible. And I think it goes to that first point I was making earlier, is that our athletes, our student athletes, often do so well because that discipline that they have is not just a general sense of discipline, but it's a specific kind of plan that they bring to their overall, you know, day-to-day schedule and their semester-to-semester schedule. So I think I would, you know, communication and discipline. And that's true for all Gettysburg College students, but I think it's particularly helpful for our student athletes.
Very sage advice, Bill. We're going to swing back to you for a little fun question at the end here, but for the moment, we're going to turn our attention to Anne. Anne,
Yeah.
you've been the Dean of Academic Advising. You know, you've got your hands full, particularly now more than ever, as we were talking before the video went live. So my first question to you is just, what do you do in academic advising, and how do you play such an integral role in helping students and student athletes really meet their academic needs?
Well, that's a good question. We work individually with students, but we also work with teams. And so we've developed, as Bill has, a good relationship over the years with the coaches. And so together we can kind of troubleshoot if there's a problem with a student at home, or a physical problem, or a motivation problem. We like to collaborate with the coaches, and they get the progress reports that we get from faculty that indicate whether a student is doing really well or maybe not so well. And then we know how to follow up. So we do work closely with the coaches, and they have in recent years begun to develop some wonderful programs on their own. I will single out the football coaches in particular, who have developed their academic game plan, and they work with study skills, time management, organization, structure. They work one-on-one with their students, and so they can report to us if they have a concern about a student, and then likewise we can collaborate with them. I just want to echo Bill's emphasis on communication and discipline, because those two qualities that hopefully a good athlete will have in relationship to their coach can also translate to classroom success. And I would add determination and integrity as well. Those are our two other qualities that we like to emphasize in our one-on-one work with students, about how they can be successful as a student. There's a reason we say student athlete. It's equal. You're a student and you're an athlete. And so the things that make for, as Bill says, that make for success in one area can also translate into success in another area. So we try to identify the places where there might be a weakness in a student's approach to his academic or her academic performance, and try to help them fix the problem. Try to smooth communications with faculty where necessary. Keep lines of communication open with residence life and counseling center and faculty members and advisors, and just make sure that we have students' territory covered in terms of giving them the support they need. And we feel that anyone who's accepted at Gettysburg College has the ability to be successful. So we count on that.
Your video froze on my screen a little bit, Anne, but I can still hear your audio just fine.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, it just
I'm not
cut
sure
out
what's
for
going on
just
with it.
Technology, this is what we're living in, the age we're living in now, and what we have to deal with and how we interact every day now too. It's just a unique
Indeed.
experience all around. And we were talking about specific examples of student athletes, and you said determination, and I can think of no young man that was more determined to complete his collegiate career on the court and off the court than our guy Cory Weissman, the subject of 1,000 to 1 and Cory Weissman's story. Just quick backstory: Cory suffered a stroke his freshman year. He was paralyzed, from half his body was paralyzed. He worked so hard to get where he needed to go. But I mean, you're talking about, I mean, he lost almost a year at Gettysburg specifically that he had to make up for too. And I'm sure he wouldn't mind the name drop, of course. We know Cory very well. He's a great kid. So can you talk a little bit about the experience you had with Cory Weissman specifically?
Yeah, we were really, we developed a really close relationship because he would feel comfortable calling on me when something went wrong or when something happened that he needed help with. And so we worked with his faculty, we worked with his coach, we worked with his family. I mean, he just had a wonderful support network because he was so willing to reach out and so upfront about his needs. I mean, he struggled with seizures when he returned. He struggled with memory loss. So he needed some classroom accommodations. And in that day, I wish we had known better than we did how best to help him overcome those obstacles in the classroom. But he did it on his own with determination and force of will. So he's like a son to me now even, or a grandson even. But he is a treasure for us, an example of how to overcome obstacles.
Yeah, and he scored 1,000 points in high school, came here. He was developing as a freshman player and had his career waylaid, but he started his senior game, went in for 2 free throws at the end of the game against Washington and hit his second free throw, and they made a movie about it. So make sure you get that on the store shelves or go stream it on
Absolutely.
Netflix while you're home and under quarantine. And now he's, I believe, working as an athletic trainer. I'm not sure where right now.
I think he's still in New Jersey. Uh-huh.
Oh, he is. You know what? He emailed me last week, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, talk about a success story. And final question I had for you. Obviously, the current situation is definitely thrown some questions out from an academic standpoint and completion of degrees and academic credits and just the stress of everything, too. So talk about what academic advising and what your staff is doing right now to help students get through this time.
Well, we're trying to do what we normally do. We're trying to be one-on-one where necessary. We work with individuals and families on individual needs and communicate with faculty as best we can. And we're trying to have Zoom meetings. We're talking with people by telephone. We're talking with people by email. So we're just trying to provide whatever resources we can to students who have trouble right now. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can still hear you.
Okay. All right, great. So yeah, we're doing the best we can with the technology we have and trying to provide the support students need from home. The biggest problem I see is their feelings of isolation. And I think that's a challenge for some people. But we all are facing that too. And we're kind of in this together. And I've noticed that faculty have been amazing in their creativity and their willingness to work with students in their individual situations to try to make things work. So we are definitely, if any time in history brought us together as a community, this has done it. And I can see demonstrations of that every day with people going out of their way to reach out and help students and help them make satisfactory adjustments to their workload, to their technical support, to whatever it is they need. We're in it together and we're trying to help every single one of them be successful as best we can.
For sure. Thank you, Ann. And we're going to turn our attention to our resident student athlete here, Colin Devlin, to get an inside look on what a normal day looks like for a student athlete and maybe talking a little bit about how you're managing your time and your schedule now. So Colin, obviously you're a wrestler. You compete from basically like October until March in some cases. It's a long, grueling season. So just kind of take us through maybe like a typical day for you from, the classes through practice, when you find time to study, where you like to study, just the basics from a student athlete point of view there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of direct my days around my class schedule because obviously that's going to dictate when I'm going to be able to get into the library or get some lunch or anything like that. So if I have a morning class, that's the first thing I'll go to, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., something like that. And then at that point have some lunch and then go either to an afternoon class or head to the library. I always leave myself a little bit of time before practice because as I got older, I'm in the training room a little bit more often, so I have to work out my body as well to get ready for practice. And then, as always, the 4 to 6 o'clock time is always dedicated to practice. Sometimes I have a little bit of extracurricular stuff that I need to do for my weight, which may be afterward. And then obviously it goes into dinner or an ice bath is what I usually would do first, ice bath, then dinner. And then from then on out, like it's completely academic focused. So it really will depend on the day because if I don't have a morning class, I can, I'm not going to sleep until noon every day. I'll be able to get up at the 10 a.m. time that I would normally be up. I like to keep that regimented and, start the work in the morning. So it all depends from day to day, but the structure is kind of the same, I think, going from try to start off with academics because if I'm thinking about is either my weight cut or if I'm thinking about like athletics, like into the weekend, I found that it's just like you kind of let school go by the wayside, and that is where we've seen people run into trouble, and that's something that helps me keep focused.
Yeah, that kind of leads into my next question, which is directly, how has athletics helped you, keep that focus on your academics? And by sounds of things, it sounds like, that schedule really helped you, that regimented schedule helped you.
Oh yeah, I always depend on being regimented. That's something I really like, having the structure of my day, because if I have too much free time, I feel like, I can, wander off, or it's like, especially I always think, and I've seen it in high school as well, I have better academic success in season than out of season because I start playing with my time. It's like, oh, I have free time. So I don't budget my time the same because I think it's just going to be open. So I'm going to be able to do it. It's no. When I have the time crunch a little bit, I'm more focused because I know that exactly this time I have to do this. And obviously there's exceptions when there's, more work coming in, or if I have a big competition at the weekend, so I have to front load the work. But it's all about budgeting the time, and like having that structure is entirely what I think helps me to succeed, at least.
Yeah, for sure. And as a wrestler, you got to be mindful of your time. You're cutting that weight. You have 2-day tournaments too. Sometimes you guys leave on a Friday to go compete at Messiah or Kings or wherever over the past couple of years, but you managed to get it done. You managed to cut your weight. You managed to be a multiple-time all-conference performer. And like you said, a 4-time scholar All-American too. Your schedule's changed a little bit now. Class structure is a little bit different. Talk about those changes, how you're managing with your schedule now. And then also what are your plans when you get your degree in May?
Yeah, so my schedule, I like to keep it as similar as I can. Being able to wake up and go to class, obviously it's different. It's not going to be the same level of interaction. Some of my professors are pretty accommodating with virtual office hours, which I know has got to be tough for them because it's like, it's one thing if you sit in an empty office. It's another thing to stare at a blank screen and have no one come through. I can only imagine. But it's go to class and then checking in the social piece as well. I think it's key because I'm still trying to get my Gettysburg experience. It is my senior spring after all. So even if I'm not having lunch at Servo with all of my friends or my classmates or something like that, I like to check in on them and the team as well, because I may be no longer competing. I don't have to, keep my body weight down to the fighting weight that I once was. But I'm pushing. I want to push everyone else, especially my teammates. But the whole, like, any one of my friends that are in athletics that have another shot next year, I think they realize how much it means, and the team bonding, to make sure that culture goes like beyond me. And so what was your next question? I'm sorry, the second
Oh,
half.
just when you get your degree, that economics degree, what are you looking to do at that point?
Well, I was hoping to burst into the finance world, so that's kind of that's a little touchy right now with the way the market is. But I mean, I still have interviews, and I still have been able to do stuff. Obviously, there's lower staffing for certain companies, the way that everything's working. But no, I still keep my interview process going. LinkedIn is very active. Also, Connect Gettysburg, all the platforms. I think Connect Gettysburg is a real interesting one. It's like, being able to be with the alumni from the school more often. We talk about our fantastic pipeline, and my coach put me in touch with some people, some Gettysburg wrestling alumni as well. And it's just like, we love to take care of our own. So yeah, I would love to be in an office with another bullet someday.
That's a great plug for Gettysburg Connect. Career Engagement will enjoy that very much, I'm sure. Colin, we'll swing back to you, but I want to return to Bill for our next question. So the last question, just kind of a fun question for everybody, because you guys are all involved in athletics. You are in the athletic center all the time. As I said, I've literally sat on stationary bikes next to Bill and Ann at the same time, with Colin running on a treadmill in front of us. So Bill, looks like Ann may have gotten kicked out of the chat, but hopefully she returns. Bill, just turning to you, what's one of your favorite athletic memories at Gettysburg?
Okay, so this is one of those things where you say, how much time do you have? Because I have lots of them. So in the interest of time, I'll try to be quick. I thought about this a little bit. 4 or 5 of them real quick. Cory Weissman, you tell the story about Cory. I did not know Cory well, but I will tell you, I was actually at the game where he made the free throw. In fact, I was with my son, the basketball crazy son, sitting under the hoop where he was shooting. And I remember was all sitting there because he missed the first one. So everybody's like waiting on bated breath about the second one. But that's not my Cory Weissman story. My Cory Weissman story is a different one, where I actually encountered him with my son in Plank Gym, which is the old gym here on campus. It's like the third gym. You guys will know it. It's like an AAU kind of place where, while he was doing his rehab, he was actually in there just by himself shooting free throws. And we happened to be in the same time shooting as well. And we were rebounding for him. And I just remember thinking to ask him how he's going. It reminded me of another one of my sayings for myself, which is, we have an honor code at Gettysburg, an honor code, as Colin would know real well. And it's, I write this in for the honor code for my students. It says, honor is what you do when no one is looking and no one will ever find out. That's because the honor code can only be an embodiment of honor itself. It seems to me that's what our athletes do all the time. Like, here's Cory, I'm sure Colin does. It's what you do when nobody else is looking, nobody else is ever going to know, but your dedication translates over. And for me, that moment in Plank Gym was like the prelude to what was going to happen later, making the free throws. You don't get there unless you put in the work. So, but another one of my favorite Gettysburg College athletic experiences is one that happens all the time. I live very close to campus. As Cory, you'll know this, I live like a block away from campus. So what I love is on a Wednesday night in particular, I come home after a day of teaching, office hours, meetings, etc. And I love when I'm coming home and I'll see the lights on over at Clark Field, because it means I'm going to get a quick dinner, run over to Clark Field and go and see a men or women's soccer game or a women's lacrosse game, because the lights are on. That means something's happening for me to go watch. It's one of my things. I'm not sure exactly why. I always enjoy seeing live sports more than watching them. I watch a ton of sports myself, but I really enjoy seeing live sports. So I'll wander, everywhere and anywhere. But when I see the lights on at Clark Field, it's like an open invitation to go see sports here at Gettysburg. And third, maybe last, is I love watching the cross country meet in the fall where they have the invitational and they invite like 20 other teams to come here. And you'll know the scene if you've been there, where they all start on the line together, like several hundred runners, and they all take off together. It's just visually really interesting to watch. And they, go from like 200 runners down to a lead pack of 5 to 7 in about 300 yards or something. So I always love that scene. And I'll take the opportunity to give a shout out today to all the track and field athletes that are in my classes right now who aren't able to be out there participating. But well, I'll give a shout out to all the athletes who aren't able to participate this spring. But I have several people that are in the track and field program in particular who are missing their spring season. But I always like going out to see them compete as well. But those would be some of the things. Clark Field for me was always just a sight to see when the lights are on. So.
Yeah, the Gettysburg Invitational is always kind of fun. When you line up there, they're lining up on the battlefield, and then they just take off like Pickett's charge out into the monuments and everything and come running across. And
well, it's also a spectacular setting because, when they run the circuit, they're running on the edge of our college fields, but simultaneously they're right on the edge of the Gettysburg battlefield. I mean, half the course takes them up and around several of the monuments that are very close to campus here. But I just like that visually, the start of that big track, the cross country in the fall.
Yeah, it is very good. We hosted the Centennial Conference Championships as well. So we've had the conference teams out there in that same area too. Yeah. And it looks like we have Ann back now. Ann, can you hear us?
I don't know what happened. Sorry. Yes, I can now.
You didn't miss anything. It was just me talking about all my favorite sporting things at Gettysburg. I will now take over for an hour and a half of call-in on sporting. Go ahead.
And now that you're back with us, what's your favorite athletic moment out there?
Well, I don't know about a moment. There are so many, but I have a story that I just love, which is about a tennis player who actually met his wife their first year at Gettysburg in Patrick. And they didn't care for each other. They thought each other was stuck up. She was a musician and he was an athlete. And they didn't appreciate each other until the senior year when they ended up in the same capstone together in their major. And they fell in love. And now they're married and they have 2 dear little boys who I hope will be athletes and musicians both. But we just have so many wonderful stories like that. But moments on the field, I can't single out one. Bill's a good one for that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've had a lot of relationships and people bond at Gettysburg. I can think offhand of a couple people that met at Gettysburg and now they're married and they come back and they have kids. And it's really just a sight to see when they come back for alumni weekends for games and they have kids, and it's just kind of mind blowing to me. Definitely special moments at Gettysburg.
I have to say though that the favorite moment would have to be Cory's single shot at the end of his basketball career.
That was Bill's as well, and ironically, the person that wasn't there, this guy. I was on paternity leave after the birth of my first child, so I was not there. But I was in the movie.
But I was there, but I wasn't in the movie because I never had the 3 hours in my day to go stand there in the crowd.
Yeah, I kind of wandered down there, and they pulled me in to be an assistant coach, so I hung out with Chris Nicolo and Bo Bridges for 2 days. It was interesting. So, Colin, switching gears to you, you've had a lot of great athletic memories too. I don't know if you can pinpoint 1 or 2 for us. I mean, you wrestled, I think, over 100, like around 140, 150 times in your career.
Yeah, I mean, we've traveled a decent bit too, so I could pick out a memory from every single season. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and bore with all the war stories. Yeah, and I've won some big matches before, but I'd have to say the best memory I'm gonna have on the mat ever is gonna be the last one I had. It was the 5th place match at regionals. So it was a little disappointing for me because I wasn't going to nationals. but it was the first kid that ever beat me in college. And so I went out there and I stuck him. Yeah, pinned him in like 30 seconds. Yeah, it's a real weird full circle, but the whole team, my parents and the crowd, that was awesome.
That's incredible. I didn't know that was the first guy you wrestled. And I remember that video because somehow you positioned your arms in a weird go-go gadget maneuver to get his shoulders to the mat too. And I don't know if anybody under 6 foot tall could have done that, but you being 6'2" could do it.
Oh yeah, well that's my distinct advantage. I've always been usually a head taller than people because the traditional wrestler build is short and stocky. And since I wrestled, freshman year was 141, but 149, 157, I am typically taller than most people on any team, regardless of weight class, but especially at my lower weight class, I am always, I don't think I've been smaller than opponent in maybe my career.
But I'm sure you're happy not to do that weight cut anymore.
I do enjoy being able to fully indulge in everything. Servo did a phenomenal job with making sure that I was down on weight. I was pretty regimented with that. I would always get a chicken breast, vegetables. I was able to keep healthy lifestyle, get good meals, and get good energy. But out of season, man, they also do a good job of helping me put that weight all back on because I love the spread there.
It's great stuff, Colin. Thank you very much. Everybody, that's all the questions I had for today's session about academic success. I just want to say thank you to everybody. It was great seeing everybody. I know we used to spend a lot of time in the weight room together, hanging out, or the cardio equipment. So hopefully we can do that again soon and see each other soon. So I just want to sign off for everybody. So for Bill Bowman, Ann Lane, Colin Devlin, I'm Cory Weissman. Thank you for tuning in today and stay safe. Go Berg.